In 2022, Georgia's Judicial Qualifications Commission brought 50 ethics charges against Douglas County probate judge Christina Peterson, who began attracting controversy before she was even sworn in 2020. Included among the charges are allegations that the 38-year-old repeatedly misused social media, ignored courthouse rules, abused courthouse personnel, and failed to fulfill her job duties. In April of 2024, the JQC ruled that Peterson was guilty of systemic incompetence. The case was still waiting to go before the Georgia Supreme Court 2 months later, when Peterson was arrested outside the Red Martini Restaurant and Lounge in Atlanta on suspicion of assaulting a police officer. Police body cam footage showed the officer trying to help a security guard escort a woman out of the restaurant when Peterson yelled at him to let the woman go and shoved him in the chest. She could also be seen swatting her arms toward the cop in an apparent effort to interfere with his ability to help the woman. The officer detained Peterson, who refused to tell him her name or age. She was charged with battery and obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Following Peterson's arrest, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled to remove her from the bench immediately rather than suspend her pending further hearings, which is the customary protocol when a judge is accused of misconduct. Her access to the courthouse was revoked, and court staff were instructed to gather up her belongings and send them to her. Number 12. Denise Kay. Over an 18-month period starting in 2022, 56-year-old Colorado attorney Denise Kay was arrested 3 times for driving under the influence. During the first incident, she backed into a parked car in Littleton. With a blood alcohol content of more than 3 times the legal limit, Kay pleaded guilty and was sentenced to a year of probation. The judge also ordered her to have an interlocking device installed in her car, but it didn't stop her from driving another car that was not equipped with the device, which was precisely what she was doing when she was nabbed again in August of 2023. During a traffic stop for suspected DUI in Sheridan, Kay backed into a police cruiser. In exchange for her guilty plea to the DUI charge, the judge dropped a charge for not having her interlocking device. Just weeks later, Kay drove her vehicle into a pile of landscaping rocks outside a grocery store in Inglewood. She received her 3rd DUI and was planning to take a plea deal in January of 2024, but the judge rejected the agreement due to concerns over Kay's repeated offenses and her failure to comply with the terms of her previous sentences. After a brief recess during the hearing, the judge questioned whether Kay had returned to the courtroom sober. A breathalyzer revealed a blood alcohol content over 4 times the legal limit, prompting the judge to put the attorney in jail for 3 days. The following month, Kay pleaded guilty to her pending DUI charges and was sentenced to a year in jail with work release, followed by 2 years of probation with strict alcohol monitoring. She failed to report her convictions to the Colorado Supreme Court's Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel as required, leading to a 6-month suspension of her law license in May of 2024. In the aftermath of her legal woes, Kay has admitted that she's an alcoholic and has vowed to work extremely hard to stay sober forward. Number 11. Jacqueline Gwinn Villarroel. 3 of Louisville, Kentucky's police chiefs have resigned since 2020. The latest top cop to step down from their post is 49-year-old Jacqueline Gwinn Villarroel, who was put on leave in June of 2024 for mishandling a harassment allegation involving 2 of the department's officers. Immediately after, Major Shannon Lauder complained about another major harassing her during a meeting the previous month. Gwinn Villarroel promoted the accused party to lieutenant colonel. Just weeks later, 2 female officers filed lawsuits claiming they had suffered on-the-job harassment in recent years. These cases came on the heels of the arrest of the world's top golfer, Scottie Scheffler, during the PGA Championship. Scheffler was pulled over while driving to the event when he tried to circumvent a major accident. The arresting officer, who has a history of disciplinary infractions and suspensions, failed to activate his body cam as required under department protocol. Scheffler was arrested on 4 charges, including 1 felony count of assaulting an officer. The district attorney dropped the case, describing the situation as a misunderstanding, but the high-profile arrest didn't do any favors for the Louisville Police Department's already struggling image, which has persistently struggled to recover in recent years. Gwinn was suspended in mid-June as the harassment cases came to light, and she resigned 2 weeks later. It's unclear whether she chose to resign for reasons of her choosing or if she was asked to step down. Number 10. Sheng Thao. The embattled city of Oakland, California, has seen a dramatic spike in crime in recent years, which has left many citizens wary about their safety and has driven out the city's Major League Baseball team after 57 seasons. Residents are also leaving, but many who choose to stay in Oakland want the 38-year-old mayor, Sheng Thao, replaced with someone they feel will be a more effective leader. In June of 2024, a group called the Oakland United to Recall Sheng Thao oust garnered enough signatures to signal the first mayoral recall election in the city's history, which is slated to take place in November. 2 days after the recall qualified for the ballot, the FBI, the IRS, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service raided Thao's home and 3 other properties, igniting increased calls on the mayor to resign. Following the raid, the Oakland chapter of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, joined the growing body of voices urging Thao to step down. Chapter President Cynthia Adams discouraged the public from rushing to judgment about the mayor's situation, but emphasized the importance of having a leader who is not distracted from the needs of the city's residents, especially as Oakland faces a massive budget deficit and the continued closures of local businesses. The raid is reportedly related to suspected campaign finance violations, but Thao has not been criminally charged in connection with the ongoing investigation and is maintaining her innocence. Even if she doesn't resign, the beleaguered politician will still face a recall election in the fall, and while she had a decent chance at surviving the recall prior to the federal raid, she now faces the additional challenge of convincing a majority of the population that it's a good idea to support her, despite all the chaos in her life. Number 9. Francis Wnjak. In June of 2024, a fire chief in Kennebec County, Maine, was accused of impersonating a police officer. Authorities have released limited details about the situation, which reportedly stems from an incident where Manchester Fire Chief Francis Wnjak responded to a fire using a municipal truck with flashing blue lights rather than the red lights that firefighters are supposed to use. Manchester Town Manager Deborah Sauthier claimed that the truck's lights had malfunctioned. Members of the Hallowell Police Department, on the other hand, are accusing 42-year-old Wnjak of misrepresenting himself as the town constable, a position which doesn't exist, and of deliberately having the blue lights installed on the truck. Sauthier told CentralMaine.com that the truck is also equipped with red and white lights, and that Wnjak had blue lights installed on the vehicle because town officials were considering the possibility of having a constable. Unsatisfied by the explanation, the Hallowell police issued Wnjak a citation for impersonating a public official. Wnjak previously made news headlines in 2020 when he was charged with operating under the influence following a traffic stop for driving with his lights off at night. He pleaded guilty in 2022 as part of an agreement which gave him the opportunity to avoid a conviction as long as he met his court-ordered obligations, and he was able to keep both his job and driver's license. He's scheduled to be arraigned in his current case in August of 2024. Number 8. Melissa Boyd. Following her election in 2022, Melissa Boyd spent just 8 months on the bench as a criminal court judge in Shelby County, Tennessee, before the state reprimanded her for using her role as a judge to solicit donations for a school. Not long after that, Boyd's former campaign manager and partner accused the judge of using cocaine and provided a photo of the suspected drugs to back up their claim. Boyd reportedly admitted to using the drug on and off over a year-long period, prompting the state board to get involved. She failed to comply with help that was offered, including treatment for her drug use, a psychiatric evaluation, and additional job training. In December of 2023, Boyd was indicted on misdemeanor charges for coercion of a witness and harassing her campaign manager. She was released on $5,000 bond with orders to stay away from the victim and submit to random drug tests. Boyd tested positive for cocaine twice in March of 2024 and failed to show for a third drug test, prompting the judge overseeing her case to revoke her bond. She spent several days in jail, then pleaded guilty to harassment and resigned from her position as a judge. The coercion charge was dropped and she was released in exchange for agreeing to attend rehab and stay away from the victim. Less than a month later, in early May, Boyd was accused of contacting the victim in violation of her plea agreement, landing herself back in jail. She was released again, only to be arrested again in late June for allegedly continuing to contact the victim, who told police that Boyd had somehow found out her new phone number and called her. Boyd faces a new harassment charge and is free on her own recognizance as she awaits her next court date. Number 7. Scott Blair. Over a nearly 4-year period starting in April of 2020, Kentucky prosecutor Scott Blair agreed to help criminal defendants in Perry County with their cases in exchange for methamphetamine and intimacy. He fulfilled his end of these arrangements by using his position as a Commonwealth's attorney to make recommendations regarding probation, drug court, probation violations, and other matters in cases that he was prosecuting. The 52-year-old fell under investigation in 2023 after someone tipped off the authorities. One individual admitted to providing Blair with half an ounce of meth in exchange for help achieving a favorable outcome in their case. Another witness told police that they saw Facebook messages between Blair and another person, and that it was clear that Blair was trying to obtain drugs or favors. A third cooperator revealed that they had known Blair since the 90s and had provided him with cocaine on past occasions. The person also said that Blair had helped them obtain lenient outcomes in 3 separate court cases. In one of these cases, a defendant who would have otherwise faced a 10 to 15-year prison term was sentenced to probation. While it may sound like the defendants benefited, one witness described Blair as an exploitative person who sought out vulnerable targets lacking support systems in their lives. But that's not happening anymore, because in May of 2024, Blair pleaded guilty to honest services fraud in federal court. He faces up to 20 years in prison and is awaiting sentencing. Number 6. Michael Finkelstein. In early June of 2024, officers in East Lyme, Connecticut, responded to a domestic disturbance at the home of 53-year-old local police chief Michael Finkelstein. A female family member told the officers that Finkelstein had assaulted her the previous night after she started going through his phone during a drunken argument because she suspected him of being in contact with a previous mistress. She accused Finkelstein of punching her in the face, choking her, and whipping the phone at her chest, and she believed her nose was broken. The woman explained that Finkelstein had started to become extremely short-tempered and prone to fits of rage, especially when alcohol is involved. She said that this wasn't their first physical fight, but that she was afraid to call 911 because Finkelstein said the police wouldn't believe her and threatened to do things to ensure that this was the case. Finkelstein claimed that the woman had threatened to get him in trouble and purposely left dried blood on her face so that the police would see it when they arrived at the home. He acted confused about why the victim was upset, accused the woman of having trust issues, and claimed that she had accidentally hit herself in the face with his phone when he let go of the device while they were fighting over it. The case was turned over to the Connecticut State Police, and Finkelstein was charged with disorderly conduct and breach of peace. He was placed on administrative leave while a colleague fills in as the acting police chief for the time being. A few weeks after Finkelstein's arrest, he was hit with additional charges stemming from 2 arrest warrants. In one case, he's charged with violating a protective order and providing a false statement. According to investigators, he failed to tell law enforcement about 2 additional guns he had registered in his name when he turned over his service weapon during his arrest. The second warrant was for a disorderly conduct charge stemming from a domestic violence complaint from 2023. Finkelstein's attorney requested permission for his client to attend alcohol counseling out of state and urged the judge for an outcome that would enable Finkelstein to get the charges dropped in exchange for cooperating with the court. The judge mentioned that he wants the defendant to attend family violence counseling, but no requirements have been imposed as of yet, and the case is ongoing. Number 5. Thomas Waller. In June of 2024, a Mississippi prosecutor made incoherent arguments in court and smelled like alcohol, leading to the suspicion that he had been drinking on the job. According to court documents, a judicial officer observed DeSoto County Assistant District Attorney Thomas Waller in a visibly intoxicated state, which interfered with the dignified conduct of the court's business. He was arrested late in the afternoon and resigned the next day after being released from jail. The judge held Waller in contempt and imposed an 11-day sentence with all but 8 hours suspended. He was fined $100 and ordered to seek help from the state bar's Lawyers and Judges Assistance Program, which is dedicated to helping legal professionals get their lives back on track. Following Waller's resignation, DeSoto County District Attorney Matthew Barton said that the incident did not reflect the high standards of service that his office holds itself to, but that he hopes Waller gets the help he needs. Number 4. Frank Aguilar. A Texas judge unexpectedly earned himself a seat at the defense table in early 2024 after he was accused of beating up a woman in a drunken rage on New Year's Eve. According to reports, 66-year-old Harris County Judge Frank Aguilar became angry with his 57-year-old girlfriend for arguing with a group of people who were renting a downstairs room at Aguilar's home in Galveston County. He allegedly punched the victim in the face repeatedly, causing her to fall to the floor, then stepped on her neck and chest while yelling at her about not getting into fights with people. When the woman said she couldn't breathe, Aguilar lifted his foot off her neck and walked away. Aguilar acted calm in front of law enforcement, claiming that his girlfriend began throwing beer cans around the house and at him during the disagreement. Officers noticed that the woman's nose was bleeding and that her head and neck were injured. But when they asked Aguilar about how his girlfriend got her injuries, he said he didn't know and was no longer interested in talking. Aguilar was arrested on suspicion of assault and released later that day after posting a $1,500 bond. He was banned from contacting the victim and ordered to stay away from her residence. A few weeks later, Aguilar was suspended from the bench with pay pending the outcome of his case. The decision came after he refused to recuse himself from at least 7 similar domestic violence cases that he was overseeing in his courtroom at the time. Back in 2010, Aguilar was found not guilty by a jury of assaulting a previous girlfriend. In April of 2024, Fox 26 Houston revealed that the judge has a history of setting some of the lowest bail amounts in domestic violence cases that the news station's reporters have ever seen, further pointing toward a disturbing tendency to overlook serious criminal allegations. On 7 separate occasions, Aguilar set bail at just $100 for a repeat domestic violence offender who was accused of choking, biting, and routinely tormenting a female victim. The defendant was repeatedly arrested for attacking the woman but continuously walked free after paying a trivial amount of money to get out of jail. For now, Aguilar's cases are being overseen by other judges while he deals with his own legal predicament, which appears to be ongoing. Number 3. Celeste Murphy. In April of 2024, 56-year-old Chattanooga, Tennessee Police Chief Celeste Murphy fell under investigation by state authorities based on allegations of official misconduct. She resigned from her position 2 months later amid the ongoing probe. The very next day, Murphy was indicted on 17 charges, including 14 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. According to prosecutors, she lied on official documents in order to establish residency in Chattanooga while attesting that the information was true by signing the forms. Murphy is accused of using the address of a house she never lived in on some of the documents, and she also claimed 2 different addresses as her primary residence during her time as police chief. One of the addresses is in Georgia, leading to suspicions that she may not have been living in Tennessee as required by department policy. She is also suspected of being registered to vote in Tennessee while not actually having a primary residence in the state. Murphy faces 6 counts of official misconduct, 3 counts of perjury, 3 counts of forgery, 3 counts of false entries in governmental records, 1 count of false entries on official registration or election documents, and 1 count of illegal voter registration. She turned herself in to authorities and remains free on a $19,000 bond as she awaits her next court date. Today's topic was requested by We Do Recover 216 and Bettina Mitchell 3535. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Robert Burke. During his active service years, retired 4-star Admiral Robert P. Burke became the U.S. Navy's second highest ranking officer. Little did anyone know at the time he may have also been living a very dishonest double life. According to federal prosecutors, 62-year-old Burke awarded a lucrative contract to the New York-based technology services firm NextJump in exchange for stock options and a promised $500,000 per year job after he retired. Authorities claimed that the deal was made after the Navy ended its business relationship with NextJump and instructed its representatives not to contact Burke. In 2021, Burke met with NextJump's founders, 50-year-old Yong-Chul Charlie Kim and 47-year-old Megan Messenger, to discuss re-establishing the firm's business ties with the Navy. In furtherance of the scheme, Burke secured a $355,000 contract for NextJump later that year, but he failed to persuade a fellow Navy admiral to grant the company another contract in 2022, at which point he reportedly made false and misleading statements in an attempt to conceal his role in issuing the previous contract to NextJump. Burke retired in October of 2022 and began working the highly paid position that the firm had promised to him. In May of 2024, Burke, Kim, and Messenger were arrested on federal charges of bribery and conspiracy to commit bribery, which carry a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Burke faces additional charges of performing acts affecting a personal, financial interest and concealing material facts, which carry a 30-year maximum sentence. Number 1. Diana Tran. As the head of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office Ethics and Integrity Unit, Assistant Los Angeles District Attorney Diana Tran is one of District Attorney George Gascon's top advisors, but her priorities may soon change as she fights her own legal battle against allegations that she unlawfully accessed and used private information from confidential files pertaining to 11 law enforcement officials. According to prosecutors, Tran accessed the files in 2018 while working at the LA County Sheriff's Department and misused the information 3 years later. She's accused of trying to add certain officers to the Brady list, which contains the names of police officers who are accused of wrongdoings and is used to discredit them in court. Tran fell under investigation in 2019 and was charged in 2024 with 11 felonies relating to her alleged crimes. She maintains her innocence and plans to fight the case, according to her attorney, James Spertus, who told the Los Angeles Times that the authorities are charging her for doing something within the scope of her employment. Not everyone agrees with that assessment, including an anonymous former detective who told the NBC Los Angeles I-Team that Tran's activities ruined the careers and reputations of some of the people whose files were accessed. Tran remains free on a $50,000 bond as the highly controversial case begins what will most likely be a complicated journey through the state's court system. Thanks for watching. Would you rather spend 5 years in prison or use all your earthly possessions to bribe the judge and remain a free man or woman? Let us know in the comments section below.